We're now going to look at the 32 consonant sounds that we find in English. And again, as with the vowel sounds, I would like you to practice saying some sounds and becoming very aware of your mouth, tongue, teeth position. So, as last time with the vowel sounds, I would like you to experiment with what happens with your mouth, with your lips, with your teeth, with your tongue when you are making these consonant sounds in red. P, f, r, l, s, sh, g, and ng. The sound that you get at the end of ing. So please stop the video and have a go at making these sounds. So what you probably found was that there's quite a big variation in where your lips, teeth and tongue are. When you're making the p sound in pat, your lips are both together and air explodes out of between them. Whereas when you're making the f sound in fat, your top teeth are on your bottom lip and air is being blown through. When you're making the r sound in rap, you'll find that your tongue is nowhere touching your mouth, whereas with lap, the tip of your tongue is behind your top teeth. With the sound s in C, the tip of your tongue is again a little bit further back behind your top teeth, whereas with sh, it's more the middle part of your tongue that is touching your soft palate. With g, the very back of your tongue is touching your soft palate, and that's exactly the same position that your tongue will be in when you're making the ng sound. So this is something to become aware of when you want to teach certain sounds, and to help your learner become aware of and to be able to describe when you're helping them make an unfamiliar sound. So we've looked at lip and teeth position, and incidentally using a mirror can really help your learner become more aware of that, even if they're a bit shy to start with. And we've looked at tongue position. What other factors are there that influence how we actually pronounce a word? So let's try and say the sounds that you can see in red in these words. The p in pat, the b in bat, and the m in mat. First of all, I'd like you to notice what your lip position is, whether you actually have to even change it to make the sounds. Secondly, as you make the sounds in isolation, put your hand on your voice box and see whether it vibrates when you make the sound. You can see the illustration here on the slide. Get a piece of paper and hold it just in front of your mouth. What do you notice as you say each sound? And finally, think about which part of your face is the air going through. Is it coming through your mouth, or maybe is it going through your nose? So stop the video and experiment with the sounds to answer these questions. Well, you probably noticed that your lip position is actually the same for all three sounds. You don't have to change anything in terms of your mouth and lip position to make these sounds. They're both made with the lips placed together. Then you also probably noticed when you put your hand on your voice box that whereas when you made the p sound in pat, there was no vibration in your voice box. When you made the b sound in bat and the m in mat, your voice was, as it were, switched on, and you were making your vocal cords vibrate. Then when you did the paper experiment, you probably noticed that when you said p in pat, the paper moved very suddenly. There was like, for example, a kind of explosion of air coming out, which doesn't happen when you're making the b and the m sound. And finally, you notice that whereas with p and b, the air was coming through your lips, when you were making the m sound, although your mouth position didn't move, you were moving the air through your nose. So you found out in this experiment that although you may find that sounds share exactly the same lip, teeth and tongue position, you can change what they sound like, first of all by either having them voiced or unvoiced, by switching your voice on and off, or by changing where the air flows through. For example, the difference between B with the air flowing through your mouth and M with the air flowing through your nose. Let's just go back to that chart of all the consonant sounds, and you'll see that many of them arranged in voiced and unvoiced pairs: P and B, T and D, Ch and J, and so on. And you can tell which is the unvoiced because it's in light grey and the voiced are in a black colour. The other thing just to bear in mind is that as well as P, B and there are other sounds that share the same mouth position but differ in where the air is coming through. For example, T, D and N all share the same mouth position, and as well K, G and Ng all share the same mouth position. So if a learner, for example, can make a G sound, then you can teach them how to make the ng sound by just getting them to put the air through a different part of their mouth, or through a different part of their face. So we've discussed a number of ways of helping learners to make the sounds by becoming aware of their mouth and tongue position and the airflow and the voicing. And if you look on page 28 of your training manual, you'll see a summary of this. We already discussed that some learners find it difficult to distinguish between two particular sounds that to English speakers sound completely different, and an example here is P and F, which is confusing for lots of Korean learners. What you can use is what's called minimal pairs, which are pairs of words that only differ in the target sounds. Here you've got pan and fan, pin and fin, pat and fat, but there are plenty of commercial books that give you other confusing pairs of sounds. Now, the first thing your learner has to do is to hear the difference between the two sounds before even being asked to say them. So what you can do is what we call say and point. You say one of the words in the pair and ask your learner to point to what they think you've said, so that they get used to distinguishing between the two sounds. When they feel quite confident about doing this and you've explored exactly how to make the sounds, then you can invite your learner to do the same. They say, you point. Once they get good at this, what you can do is take a pair, like pin and fin, and say these pairs 5 times. And ask your learner to say, for example, how many times did I say the word fin here? So for example, if I say pin, pin, fin, pin, fin, you'll have heard that I said fin twice. So then they have to say them one after the other, or hear them one after the other. And when your learner can do this, you can invite them to also have a go at saying it 5 times, and you'll say how many times they said one of the words. So we've had a look at the left-hand side of the chart, the phonemes, the individual sounds, consonants and vowels. What we're going to look at in the next video is what happens when we put all these sounds together into connected speech, because that's just as important as being able to say the individual sounds.